Welcome to Financial Freedom on Autopilot, where we help you draw out the map to unlock true freedom. Here's your host, real estate syndicator that's managed over 173 deals and doors over the past 18 years, Ivan Alfaro. Enjoy.
So there I was. I just got a call from the lender saying, yeah, we need 30 more days. This was after 2 extensions beforehand, and so it would essentially make it about 75 days to close total. Today I'm talking about great risk to great reward, and what are the different parts of the equation to that as it relates to investing, being in real estate, being in business in general. Number one, well, actually, let me give you a summary. No, there's 3 points here. When your body says don't make that call, that means you have to make the call. That's number one. Not everyone is built for investing or business. Number 2. And number 3, absent business owners eventually make absent profits. So hopefully this will all naturally intertwine. But yeah, that example of the most recent listing that was the most stressful, that is what happened. The lender, I don't know, was twiddling their thumbs in their office for weeks on end apparently because they didn't follow through on the typical 30-day close. But I could have been that guy and been like, oh man, this is going to be awkward to tell my seller after we just had so much work securing extensions. And they gave us their word, the buyer, that they would close. But instead of kind of going into a corner and crying, I practice this principle, right? When you don't want to make that call, you have to make that call. Your body's going to want to say no, like you want to just deliver good news all the time. You know, most people lack the courage to deliver bad news. Even just outside of this listing thing, right? It's investing in business. You want everything to work out perfectly, but that's just not life. You don't earn great rewards by having everything pan out. It makes me think of like people that do have a shortcut solution. They may have unintended consequences when it comes to creating massive wealth overnight, which is under 0.001% of people, right? That doesn't realistically happen. But this guy did, but he happened to do it at the cost of his family. He worked 100-hour weeks for like 10 years and became a millionaire, but the unintended consequence was, in conversating with him, well, this is a mutual friend relaying the story, he said, you know, I have all this money, unlimited amount that I could give away, that I can invest continuously, make more businesses. But the thing I can't buy that I really want to buy is my wife's love, or actually his ex-wife's love back, and his children to actually want to be with him, right? So that's the consequence of shortcut solutions, which are unrealistic. It's better to have stepping stones towards progress, which naturally ties me into the next one. Not everyone is built for investing or business. But before I leave the first point, I want to make one last thing here, a sub point, because this one is really key. You know, sometimes having the courage to deliver bad news in a weird way can actually help build relationship, because you're being proactive, right? Think about your body. The best way to get ahead of issues is preventative maintenance. It's not reactionary, not just putting a band-aid on it like Ozempic. You're actually supposed to be doing work along the way, you know, not drinking the soda, having the courage to do that. And so in a similar way, having the courage to deliver bad news to clients or even friends, family, colleagues, in a weird way, actually builds courage. Makes me think of Oprah. She said she doesn't trust any friends to become best friends until something serious happens between them. So until you're able to overcome a valley together, I mean, it makes sense to me. You can't really see what the real prospects of the relationship, the friendship are until something serious goes down. Especially if you want to go climb Mount Everest together. If that person just loses their mind about something, right? A value in the relationship, then Mount Everest is never going to be in the picture. All right, let me get off this first point I've spent 5 years on. Not everyone is built for investing or business. Here's a simple analogy for this one. A woman I know was in a relationship with a guy, and he was very aware that she wanted to go do greater and greater things, start businesses, create conglomerates, and he was real with himself. He was like, I just want to start a small family and continue being a security guard and live modestly. And he respectfully bowed out of the relationship and said, you go do greater things with a man that really deserves your attention and wants to build these great things with you. And, a guy might be like, man, that dude's a punk. He's just stepping away when he could have figured it out. But, some people are just not built for business. It's a high percent of a failure rate, high percent of stress. The sensibility that you have to have as a character, in your character, as a person, is not for everybody. Sometimes you have to be real with yourself and say, I love being a restaurant manager. I love being a cashier here. And that's my life. And maybe if my spouse wants to do something else, that's their thing. But I'm okay with a modest life. And there's nothing wrong with that, especially because, again, investing business can be high risk, high stress. Not everybody's built for it. Lastly, it's not directly tied into great risk or great reward, but sort of. Absent business owners eventually make absent profits. So I was having a conversation with the lender the other day, and he was talking about all these loans he's done for franchise owners like Burger King's, Wendy's, and he said they're going back to the meat and potatoes, which is only lending to owners that will be active day to day. And that's because they've noticed anybody that's absent from the franchise, from an ownership perspective, the revenues go way, way down. It's obnoxious. So to reduce the risk on the franchise side, they're changing their guidelines essentially. And so, it's just natural. If you have an owner that doesn't, ownership that doesn't care, then the business is just going to go down. You're not going to have the eyes that the business needs to have. Maybe 8 months ago, I ate at a McDonald's just right here by the office. And this McDonald's has got at least, 10,000 cars driving right past it because it's right out the exit every single day, if not more. And, oh my gosh, I think I went there 6 months before that, so twice. The experience was exactly the same. Poor service, really delayed. I think it took like 20 minutes to get like a 2 cheeseburger meal. And it just makes me think of, this must be an absentee owner that isn't paying their people right, that isn't overseeing anything. They're just glad to collect $2, which eventually that's going to be unsustainable, right? If you have somebody that's wealthy and has that perspective, maybe they came into wealth, inherited, and they're just like, yeah, just money will continue printing. Well, no, you have to be attentive to money and how the capital is being used. I guess it does tie back to great risk and great reward, because to be involved in business, in this case of McDonald's example, you have to have some degree of risk going in there, even if it's once, twice a week, to say, hey, you're not doing good, I have to fire you. That's a risk because you might get slapped in the face. You might have to get your hands dirty. That's a risk from firing that person. You might have to learn every single job in the restaurant for when somebody calls out, which is inevitable in that sort of high turnover restaurant business. But yeah, those are some of the things I wanted to cover on great risk to great reward. And let me give you some related quotes here. Let me see. The harder the struggle, the greater the reward. The greater the obstacle, the more glory in overcoming it. This, by the way, I'll wrap up on this too, because like having a hard time is not necessarily a victory. You know, you may have a hard time and end up failing at business. And ironically, I would trust that sort of person more than I would trust somebody that is always winning all the time, because always winning all the time to me kind of looks like a Ponzi scheme. But you know, there is glory nonetheless if you fail or succeed, like, because the glory is in that you could know what to avoid in the future. My mom and I, she invested in me to start an internet cafe when I came to Georgia. We moved to Jonesboro. She was my seed investor essentially, right? And you know, it was a hard time. I didn't know anything about business. I didn't go to college. Went straight from high school to starting a business with my mom. And out of all the places, I just impulsively picked a office location in a medical area. And this was like my version of college, I would say. In 6 months, I learned what not to do in business. And so, you know, that was some degree of glory, however, because going forward, I kept an eye on all the things a business owner should keep an eye on, versus being absent, versus not confronting things, not making the calls that I need to make, right? But yeah, that's it. I'll go ahead and wrap up here. Have an amazing and blessed day.
Before you go, quick question for you. Do you prefer giving a hand up, not a handout, to people in need? Did you know that you can build serious wealth and cash flow while helping people out? Financial Freedom on Autopilot is brought to you by Common Walk, a hedge fund built on wealth through impact. We invest in and educate on niche real estate investments that build passive wealth and cash flow for investors like you, while providing opportunities to others that want a better life for themselves. While no investment is guaranteed, it's interesting to learn that billionaires like investor Warren Buffett have tripled down on the real estate niche we've mastered, which is affordable housing. As multi-family operators in this space, we've consistently generated double-digit returns for almost 20 years. To learn more about this niche investment class that literally no one is talking about, schedule a call with us at commonwalk.com/contact. This episode is for informational purposes only and does not constitute an offering to sell a security. Such an offering would solely be made through Common Walk's confidential private placement memorandum, in strict accordance with all applicable securities laws and regulations of the United States. Prospective investors must rely on their own examination of the fund's prospects and the terms of the investment, including the merits and risks involved. All content shared in this recording does not speak to every individual or entity's financial position, goals, and risk tolerance. Therefore, consult a trusted financial advisor, certified public accountant, business coach, and attorney before making any financial decisions.